if it didn't work, I can make it a rental again.
Yeah, true.
So that was my mindset.
Or in this market, you can always sell it.
I'm not selling anything. I get calls out. I learned that before.
Yeah.
And then what am I going to do with the money? Like, I could buy, everything's so elevated. That's the struggle right now in Arizona.
You're listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
Hello. Welcome, AZREIA, to the AZREIA Show. We have another great episode, and we have our guest today, who is Flip, and we'll be talking to Flip about short-term rentals. We'll be talking to Flip about rentals, everything that he's been doing as far as real estate investing. But before we do that, we always got to talk to our co-host, Mike Delpreet. How are you doing, Mike?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me, Marcus.
All right. Well, he's being modest, but Mike is the executive director of AZREIA, and he's joining us on the show like he always do. So,
yes, sir.
Mike, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thank you.
As you guys can see, if you're visual, if you're on YouTube, we're in our new studio, so something a little bit different. But before we get started, man, Flip, kind of introduce us to yourself, who you are. I know you go by Flip, but give us your whole name and what you do as far as a real estate investor.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Michael and Marcus, and love the studio and the new setup.
You're the first guest, man.
Yep,
No
first
way.
guest.
Yeah,
Yep. Inaugural.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that, but
Yes,
now
sir.
I'm feeling special. So thank you.
Well,
So 23 years in Arizona, over 1,000 flips now. And
Nice.
you and I go way back
yes, sir.
to 2010.
Yep, easy.
The wholesale deals. And so we both survived
We
the
did.
whole recession. And about 2 years ago, I gave up flipping. All I do is short-term rentals right now.
Mhm.
Okay.
right.
So what made you decide to do that transition from flipping to just short-term rentals?
Flipping to me, Marcus, is a job. So meaning if
Yeah.
I wasn't in town, the job wasn't getting done right. So
Yep.
there's a lot of management, a lot of hand holding, and I still flip, but I flip to short term.
Short-term.
So I'll
Okay.
buy some older properties and convert them, work on and renovate them. But the time isn't as pressed. I don't have to I'm still pressing to get it done. But like with flipping, hard money costs. There's a lot
Mhm.
of, so, and the
difference.
sustainability is what I love about the model with short term, because I was in Hawaii. I was getting ringtones on my phone, making money. I'm like, this
Love
is
it.
amazing.
Well, we went to, let's talk, we're definitely going to cover short-term rentals.
Yes.
That definitely want to know what you're doing in today's market. But there's a lot to learn from you, Flip, because you started, when was your first year investing?
Let's see, late 90s.
Late
I'd say.
90s.
Yeah,
Okay. So
late 90s.
there's a lot there. So what did you start to, how did you get it? What strategy how'd you learn what you start doing?
So let's see. I don't know if you remember Carlton Sheets.
Yeah, of course.
So bought his course.
Yeah, it's real.
And it's real deal, Holyfield. And then I was selling copiers when I graduated. My first job from ASU was getting doors slammed in my face a lot. And then I went to a Fortune 100 company called Automatic Data Processing Payroll Service.
Okay.
Great company. They had a stack of resumes. 6 interviews later, I was hired as a sales rep. I had to sit the bench. So even back then, having mentors meant a lot. So I knew the value of mentorship. So I had Tom Bowden and Charles Richardson. They were the executive sales guys, and they mentored me. So I go out, do drive-bys. I go in the car, go in meetings, similar to the real estate stuff we're mentoring now. So that was amazing. So I did that.
So you built up sales skills. Okay.
Because ADP, Michael, their sales training is top notch.
Okay.
So they're based out of New Jersey. They're, like I said, Fortune 100 company, but them and Paychecks are the industry leaders. So to get in with them was quite an accomplishment, I felt. And then every week we'd have about 3 sales trainings. And so it was really, it's a consultative sale. It wasn't a hard sale. They wanted you to be more of a consultative sale. So learned a great deal doing that. So about 6 months later, I got my own territory. South Phoenix was industrial. I loved it. I had a great manager, Michael Marino, Italian buddy. He was highly motivated. He was, and I didn't know he had worked there, but because I knew him in college. He was a president of fraternity. And so I ended up getting blessed to be able to work for him as my manager. His car was in the parking lot at 6 a.m. He wouldn't leave till like 10 at night. So
wow,
he motivated me, even being self-motivated. I'm like, damn, this guy's hustling. He was a New Jersey guy. He owns some big company in DC now in the industry. And so he was really I had a mentor in the copier business, but then Michael Marino at ADP. So what had happened is Charles Richardson, him and I hit it off. He was a Midwest dude, and we started climbing the mountain. I'm like, Charles is driving this car, that car. He's not working too much at ADP. What's he doing? So he was in real estate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there
so
goes.
that was my connection to real estate. I befriended Charles, and he was doing rentals at the time. He wasn't flipping. And so that's what kind of got me.
So he exposed you. So you're working the 9 to 5, sales, commission, that whole thing.
Good W-2 though. That was a real blessing because I was able to, no debt, was able to qualify.
Okay, so we like to say that a lot. Like sometimes like people think, they want to quit real estate, right, and jump right in, or not just quit their day job and jump into real estate. However, the access to loans is huge, right? So you said he wasn't even flipping, he was just working. And he obviously was in sales.
He was sales executive, and he was doing a good 6 figures at that time. That was 20 some years ago, and so that was a lot of money. And he was just able to, tax returns. So that's
so he takes the chunks of cash he's making in sales, and he's probably parking it in real estate.
Yes,
and just building that.
That's what he taught me, and so I was able to buy my first property with little out of pocket in Chandler, and it's off Elliott for some
still
local.
Own it?
No, I sold it. I sold it. No, Elliott and the 101. It was just it was a townhome was my first investment, but I was able to qualify. And from there, I bought something up in Scottsdale, and I house hacked that property in Scottsdale. So
before it's called house hacking?
Exactly. So that I had 3 roommates, and my mortgage was like $1,300 at the time, and they were each paying, I think, $400. So
you had a rental, you had a second property, you're house hacking it, and what else happened? How'd you get it full time? How'd that process work?
Man, when you're done, you're done. So at ADP, I just didn't have that same passion. I saw Michael left, my mentor manager, and one of my teammates came, and he was assigned as my manager, and I just was ready for some change and wasn't happy deep down. And so it was a pivotal point. I just eventually thanked them and ended up leaving the company.
How did your sales skills, learning that training, translate into real estate now?
Big time. Because back then we didn't have cell phones or whatever, but one of the things that they teased me about in the office is I'd be door knocking. Same thing. We door knock on houses now, but I come back with a stack of cards. They know that's going to translate into sales. So even though it was consultative, we work with CPAs, banks. One of my big things was I'd come back with a stack of cards, and that was the hustle that I had to do. And just watching other salespeople, and we go over numbers. It was very, very structured with the corporate. You had to hit a certain quota every week, and
well, and that's very important, because a lot of people think that once you get into real estate, it's a magic pill. Money's just gonna flood in, but you still got to do that grind work, right?
I mean, even 10 times harder at least, because you don't have these leads coming in. You're you got to rev it up.
You're right. You got to not only generate the leads, but then got to go and door knock, call, or whatever to those leads.
Yeah, and then close them too.
Yeah.
Real estate's a business, right? So you have to use those business fundamentals. You got to understand the business process. It doesn't matter what is real estate, any industry you're in, there's still the fundamentals of business. And you said a lot, right? The sales skills, the follow-up.
The follow-up was big. We have a tickler. You got to hit them so
goals,
much.
quotas.
So it's called farming. So you farm the area.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you got your first few deals in there. And so that leads into, going into the 2000s, I'm assuming, somewhere. So you're going into the boom.
So I left ADP. Your loved ones think you're crazy. My parents were like, what are you doing? You had a great job. And I'm like, I just wasn't happy. And so it was interesting. I had a young family at the time, or one daughter, and I left, and I thought all of a sudden that I was going to flip and make all this money. Didn't work like that. The first flip was off 67th Avenue in Thomas. I didn't really know any subcontractors, anyone to help me. Because Charles was doing rentals, so it was a totally different game. But I wanted to flip.
You got to pay some bills.
Yeah. And so I made like $1,000 on that first flip.
Ooh, wow.
It was bad. But prior to that, I'm like, I got to form a team. So I had to figure out title company. I had to figure out CPA. I had to figure out where to get the private money. So I wrote all that down, and then I went out and chased it. Like there wasn't Instagram, Facebook. I had to ask people like, who's a good title company? And from the title company, she gave me my hard money lender. So a lot of those people I worked with for years, Overfields at Security Title, and some private money up in Paradise Valley. And so as long as you get a plan in place, things will work out. But like you can't be just throwing blind darts where you headed. So I had to know what I was setting up. And then
where'd you get your information? I know you said Carlton Sheets. So when you quit your job, you're like, I'm going to flip. You never did a flip before. And then you're like, no, I got to come up with some type of plan. So how'd you know what pieces to kind of put in your plan?
I mean, I just kind of winged it, bro.
Swing it? All right. I get it. Yeah.
I was calling out of the New Times or back, whatever. Like, I don't even there wasn't this where you look up everything. So like, hey, are you an electrician? Can you meet me down here? Are you a roofer? So that was frustrating because it just, you had to figure out who would show up, who may not show up.
So not only were you hustling to find a deal, but she was hustling to get the contractors, the money, everything like that. And a lot of people don't take that into consideration. They think, well, only thing I got to do is find a deal, but it's a lot more to it. And you just expressed that.
There's a lot that goes into it. And I probably felt that, well, there wasn't flippers back in the day. So like, is that legal? People were asking, like, what do you mean is it legal? You just buy the house, put some money into it, and turn and sell it. And so that was the question I got. And so anyway, what had happened is the first couple of years were hard as hell. They were like, I wasn't making nearly what I was making at ADP. I had a 401k and some savings that I had cashed out from ADP to survive. And it wasn't working. Like I was trying my hardest, but it just, the deals weren't coming in. Where young wife, young daughter at home. And I'm like, I need to do something, but I'm not going back to 9 to 5.
So let me ask you this. Let me jump right in, because I know a lot of people hit that spot. They transition from the corporate and they say, I'm gonna get out here and I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. Just that whole entrepreneur mindset is, I got to get out here and make things happen. But how did you feel when things wasn't happening?
I mean, it's hard. It's like you're some sleepless nights in there. Like you're trying to figure out how to pay the SRP bill. Like it's because you run out of money pretty quick.
Yes, you do.
So,
and then not only that, you're looking back and you're like, you got people, family and friends saying, well, why don't you go back to ADP?
Exactly.
Why don't you go back to ADP?
Another payroll job. I'm like, I'm not doing that stuff. Like I only had one plan, and that was to do well at real estate. So what I did is I was with this church I was going to at the time. So happened to be went to Mexico. One of the dudes was an entrepreneur. His name was David. And so I was telling him about the passion of real estate. Next thing you know, he's like, well, I have a nut commodities business. So I didn't realize this. He was extremely wealthy. He lived up in North Scottsdale. he's like, why don't you come in and talk to me about a sales job? I'm like, all right. So I did that. And at first he wanted me to come work in his office, and thankfully he never pushed me. I did sales out of the home in Scottsdale, and I was working most of the time with building the real estate. Like I was doing a lot of envisioning. Like back then, visualization was really big. I go make all these boards and just visualize it. And so from there, though, David paid me a good commission plus salary selling peanuts and almonds over the phone.
Wow. Literally peanuts and almonds.
Yeah, that's what his company does. He had a roaster in Fresno, near Fresno, and he would sell truckloads of raw. It's a high level. So I just sell the roasted product, but he would move walnuts, almonds. So it was a whole new industry that it just
So he had a commodities business.
Commodities. And like I said, he crushes it at the time. And so that was really a transition where I didn't want to go to the 9 to 5, but I needed to make some money, but I didn't want to go to an office. And so, because I wanted to spend most of my time chasing the real estate.
Right.
So that allowed me to figure out how to survive until I really started making enough to pay the bills.
Did he lend on any of your deals?
David?
Yeah.
No. He was just all his stuff was in his commodities business.
Okay, cool.
So you had that happy medium, like you said. It wasn't full time where you had to go to the office, and it wasn't nothing where you could just focus 100% on real estate, but you had found that happy medium.
Happy medium.
Yeah, and that's part of that psychology of success, is knowing what do I need at this moment? You know, because a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, we face it where, okay, this is not working. What am I going to do? We start to beat up on ourselves and everything like that. And then we make a bad decision and we end up going back to corporate or something like that. And
it's easy to throw in the towel, right? Like there was many times I wanted to, I'm like, I was close, but I'm like, I always see the cup half full. So that's just my optimism. Like, I'm like, there's something good coming.
You hit it right when you're saying visualization and stuff like that, because when you're thinking about it and you're working towards that picture and you're moving forward, things happen. I don't even want to, like when you're working, it falls in your lap. Yeah. Like, so that guy coming into your life gave you an idea or an option to kind of put you in that position to keep going. Right. So, that's awesome. Man.
And it's like those who work get what they put in the work. It's going to happen, right? Yeah. So it's not just luck. You have to put in actual work every single day.
And I'm glad you said the word luck, because that's what a lot of people from the outside, they see. They say, okay, well, Flip had a couple of lucky breaks. Mike had a couple of lucky breaks. Marcus had a couple of lucky breaks, but we got the luck because of the work that we put in. Yeah. So it wasn't,
and you're going to attract the luck, that.
Right? Yeah. It wasn't we got lucky and then we got the success. No, we did all of the work, and then one lucky thing happened. Like you said, your circle of influence with David pushed you, and now you was able to say, all right, well, I don't have to be full-time, but this will help put food on the table while I still do real estate.
Yeah, chasing my passion. So, and then I was doing that for about 3, when I left David after 2, did 3 on my own. Then my big mentor, Jerry, came into my life around, I don't know, maybe 04, 05. And we had a business for 5 years right before the recession. I learned a ton. He had been in real estate for 30 years.
So let's talk about the building up before the recession. That's kind of wanted to dive into a little bit. So,
well, Mike, before we do that, let's take a brief break.
Okay.
Hear a word from our sponsors, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the build up to the recession and what Flip did.
Awesome. Thank you.
This episode of the AZREIA Show is brought to you by AZREIA Business Associate, Zona Law Group. Zona Law Group handles numerous real estate matters with a focus on landlord-tenant law in Arizona. For more information, visit their site at zona.law.
All right. And we're back. We're here with Michael Dale Preet and Flip, and we're talking about flipping and short-term rentals and the market. So Mike, before we left, you was going to ask Flip a question. Kind of go back and let's dig into that a little bit more.
Now, I'm just curious, right? Because, history always repeats itself, right? What goes up comes down.
Yep.
Flip's been in the business long enough where he experienced an up and a down. So I would just like to know, before, what were you doing and how was the business in, 02, 3, 4, 5? How was that for you? Right?
It was hard. It was freaking.
What were you doing? Like, what model were you doing? What strategy?
Yeah. So again, network, bro.
Okay.
Like there wasn't a ton of wholesalers, but I knew them all.
Mm-hmm.
And they started so one of the things I used to do is carry the checkbook. So I'd always carry the checkbook. So if I were going to meet you at a property you were wholesaling, you would call me. So it's not like it is today on the internet or anything.
Yep.
So Troy would call me, hey, Flip, I got a property down in, Central Phoenix. I'm like, all right, I'll be there. So I dropped everything to meet because I knew Troy had good deals.
Mm-hmm.
I bring a checkbook, and if I wanted the deal, I'd write a $10,000 check.
Got it.
So that form of commitment, he knew it was real. He knew I was going to do what I said. So that's, to me, that matters. That matters a lot.
Right.
Like if you say you're going to do something, take the deal. And then I did that with a lot of wholesalers, and they kept bringing me their deals because they knew I was going to follow through.
So you're buying a lot of deals from wholesalers, and were you flipping them? What were you doing?
Yes. So at that time, I was flipping, and I held maybe under 10. I started doing rentals too because I had those first couple, and that one I house hacked. I ended up keeping that. We grew, got a different house up the street in Scottsdale, but so it was mainly flipping.
Okay.
And then I got introduced. Oh, I was wholesaling too. So I was wholesaling.
What didn't you do?
I mean, the thing, Marcus, I learned and I was taught, lock the deal up. Then you got you got a bunch of different options. So still to this day, I do the same thing, bro. Just lock it up. And so Jerry, there was this house on 10th and Bethany, I want to say, and he had been retired since 50 years old. And he moved to the Valley at 66. And he's like, I need something to do. I think I'm going to buy a house in Phoenix and fix it. He brought his wife with him. He's like, I'll take it. And I preferenced it up front. I need a $10,000 check. I never met Jerry. And so what he did, he gave me the check, and then he called me that night. He's like, Flip, I don't want to do real estate. I've been retired for all these years, and my wife wants to do this to the house. I want to do this to the house. So just keep the 10,000. And I really didn't, I'm not going to take the 10,000. It's just kind of a thing to secure it. And so I'm like, no, I'm going to give you your 10 back. So what I did, the market was so hot then, I called another guy, wholesaled it. I gave Jerry a portion of those proceeds. And so he made money from that deal. And since then we became friends. He became a mentor, and then we formed an LLC together, and we did a lot of properties.
Perfect.
So
that's great, man.
And it just kind of,
you guys were partners throughout that whole time?
Yes, for about 5 years before we lost almost everything in 2008, 2009. That was another hard part.
What do you see any similarities now compared to that time frame?
So Jerry had been through 3 recessions, and the one that we went through in 2008, 2009, that was a crisis. So,
yeah, for sure.
What we're encountering now is, it's not dealing with the financial markets, but I know it's going to level off at some point. Everything comes up, it goes down some, but we'll see how far it goes. We got a lot of strong signs in the economy besides the inflation right now, but things are still.
But do you notice anything any similarities, just the way the market is, when they say, oh, the janitor starts flipping houses, do you notice anything along those lines or that you could call out?
You know what I think that has changed so much. We're doing a ton of property in Maryville down here in West Phoenix, and I'm not a realtor. I just had Ken who sold a lot of them, but they were doing loans to people who couldn't qualify.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like, how did they qualify? And I, at the time I really didn't think about it because I was just selling like Ken was selling them. And so that's what really messed up everything. Like these people, they didn't have to prove income. They didn't have to prove job history. They just signed their name. And I feel like a lot of them didn't know what they were signing. And then it would be a teaser rate. All of a sudden the mortgage would be $1,000, then it go up to like $2,000 in 3 months. So there was no way they could sustain owning that house.
What was Maryville trading for at that time?
Dang.
Do you remember?
Man. Yeah, I could tell you the certain square footage.
No, like the price. What was Maryville selling for before the crash?
Oh man. We actually had about 6 properties retail on the market. A lot of them got locked up and were ready to close, and we'd be driving down the 101. Oh, that mortgage broker closed his doors today. So like it slowly started to implode. And we're like, wow, what is going on? Like there was so much uncertainty.
Yeah.
Are you seeing some of those similarities now? Because I know I hear a lot about loans where you don't know, no doc loans and everything like that now. Are you
I believe
some
there's more regulation on the mortgage industry. The appraisers too, like they were just appraising for ungodly amounts. It's like how? Like,
I don't see any financial like loan situations like that.
Yeah, it was just a historic thing that was very painful. And
so you lost it all, huh?
Except for 2. I kept 2 properties. I got divorced. I lost everything. Like, it was a rough time.
And you didn't quit?
Oh shoot! What else would I know? I don't know anything else. Like I can't do anything.
Exactly.
So
kept going,
as
right?
fate would have it, I met 2 Canadians. I think that's when you and I met. I met 2 ladies from Canada. They were teaching investors from Canada how to invest in the United States. So they would funnel me all their clients, Winnipeg, Calgary. I met people from all over the different provinces that kept Arizona. You remember, kept Arizona afloat.
Yeah, so 100%. China, Australia,
New Zealand was back out here.
Because the U.S. was on sale at the time.
It was deep discounts. And my buddy Frank, he might have bought 120 properties in Maryville. Like he still owns them, but he was paying 30 cents, 20 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, man, there's a new, so, when markets change or shift in some way, or whatever they do, there'll just be new buyers. Like you just got to adapt to the changes. Someone will come along.
I believe so. International, because there was no U.S. buyers because our economy was just in the doldrums, and like we couldn't even, we didn't know what was going to happen. So we had a bunch of Washington Mutual loans, a bunch of different mortgages we put on our rental properties. And I mean, the prices kept going. We had new builds too. Thankfully, we didn't go to Maricopa. We went to Gilbert, which those homes are probably worth a mint now. But we ended up Jerry's like, we just got to give them back. And we did 80-20 loans. So we had 20% cash on each deal.
So that's right. There's a lot of new builds going on at that time too, right? Yeah. That's what's going on now. So
we bought 4 in Gilbert because we didn't wholesale. We fixed and flipped a Central Phoenix property, and the guy's mom, he bought it for his mom in Central Phoenix. And then he's like, I'm building homes in Gilbert. And it was right off the 202 there in Val Vista, but we ended up buying 4 brand new homes there and working out something. But today I would have been set and retired. That was in the plan though. So
I have another question on that.
Sure, go ahead.
So with the Canadians helped you out, right? Introduced you to
3 years. Yeah, 2 to 3 years because I didn't have any money.
So were they lending, or were you finding the deals?
I was JVing. I was creating different structures. I was wholesaling. I was
they had the money.
Teaching them. They had a lot of money.
You knew the market. They had the money.
Yep. I was the guy in the streets, and I was creating different things for them.
Awesome.
Based on their needs.
And that kept you afloat.
Yeah. Until I could eventually have some of my own money and partner with them, or start doing my own deals again.
Awesome.
Those relationships.
Yep.
Once again, and that's
It's-
what we always tell people is the power of relationships in your circle of influence.
I mean, that's what it's a network, right?
Yep.
Yep.
100%, man.
You got it. So now coming up, Mike, you done with the
Oh,
past
I was just
and
going to
some-
mention
Yeah.
Okay.
our relationship. So
Uh-huh.
we go back 10, 12 years, and
Yeah.
it's a small world because most of those guys aren't still doing
So true.
real estate. So we met, you were wholesaling, I think? or-
Yeah, I was wholesaling. Yeah. And, we were just.
We had a mutual
Yeah.
contact.
Yeah, man. The way we were getting through at that time, same thing, right? The unique buyers, international buyers, and we were wholesaling, obviously, but we were going into Maryville and South Phoenix and picking up all the block houses, whereas everyone else was going to the auctions.
Oh,
Gotcha.
gotcha.
A lot of people didn't even want to deal with wholesalers because you can go with all those foreclosures, you can buy a cookie cutter, 2000 build, right? Why buy a junker in South Phoenix? But,
Right.
But that's another thing that you learn too. There's a buyer in every neighborhood.
For sure.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
And
it's
that's
like,
why I love the bread and butter properties.
Mhm.
I'm
yeah,
always,
affordable
like,
housing, man.
My mentor always keep those going.
Yeah,
Yep.
So I'm sure we did some deals at that time.
You guys were up at the car wash, I think.
Yes.
That office.
Yeah, we had above the Tatum and by the PV
Yep,
Mall.
yep,
We were
yep.
above above the car wash. It was a nice place too, man.
Times have changed. Yeah, but
Yeah.
now you got all these seats. So
Yeah.
it's something about sticking to what you do and
Yeah,
keep doing it.
It's that perseverance and that longevity. You got to have that in order to be successful.
Yeah, because we're surrounded by a lot of younger generation. It's
Mhm.
awesome helping them. However, Instagram doesn't mean instant, like right now, right? And so that's one of the teaching moments where like it's more of a marathon than it's not a sprint.
is.
It's like you're gonna have days that
Exactly.
you want to quit, but like us, we just gotta use that word perseverance.
Yep.
It's 100. Man, that's why we're here at AZREIA. It's just like that's why Marcus and I were glad we're doing this to help the younger people, right? Because anyone that's got in the business how long has it been a seller's market? Like 8 years.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Forever.
Well,
It
Yeah,
seems like
yeah.
So anyone that's gotten into business recently, they've just only experienced
the ups.
hot market.
Yeah.
Everything flies off the rack. But once that stalls or slows down, you got to understand. You got to learn the business. You got to
The
understand
fundamentals,
of the
Yeah,
business
yeah.
and running a business and the different strategies because the market's going to change. You're not to.
It's
Sometimes-
always change. It's always going
always
to change,
changing.
and that's why I felt it was a time for me to pivot into short term.
There you go. Okay,
That
let's
was
segue
like-
into that.
There
That's
we
perfect.
go.
Perfect.
So your pivot into short-term rentals, how did that happen? What kind of go over that when we come back? We're going to take a brief
Okay.
break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk all things short-term rentals.
Awesome.
A supporter of today's AZREIA show is AZREIA Business Associate Boomerang Capital Partners. They're coined as the best flip and lender, providing financing solutions to help fund your next fix and flip project. For more information, visit boomerangcapital.com.
Okay, before the break, we were talking about everything in the history and the market and everything like that. Now, currently, Flip, what are you doing? We know you as the short-term rental guy, man. Kind of tell us how you stepped into that and what you're doing.
Yeah. Again, I took the information and learned from some mentors. So I'm not trying to recreate any wheels here at all. So Sasha was my first mentor, and Sasha, I taught how to wholesale 10 years back.
Okay.
And so what he did is he wholesaled a little bit, decided to get his real estate license, and then he got involved in selling properties to clients in Arizona. But in the interim, he ended up getting into VRBO. So 10 years ago, he bought his first VRBO. And I'm like, dang, I don't know much about it. But so he ended up having them in Quebec because he's from Quebec originally, in Palm Springs, Arizona. So we stayed in contact over the years. And then we were having lunch December 2019 in, it was like 44th Street in Camelback down there. And he's like, yeah, Flip, great seeing you. By the way, I have a listing at 44th Street in McDowell for 189. It's an Airbnb already. I'm pretty busy with what I got going on, so I'm not going to get it. But the doctor and his wife are getting divorced, and they have 7 Airbnbs that I'm going to list. So I'm like, he's like, you want to go look at it right now?
So when you say list on Airbnb or list
as
for
an
sale?
agent. So
Okay.
he acts as an agent and also has his own short-term rentals. And so I'm like, all right, let's go. You know, he's like, we could go right after lunch. I'm like, cool. So we went to look at it, built in 66, townhome, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And he gave me first dibs. He's like, if you want it, I'll send you the financials. I'm like, dude, I don't pay retail. I don't pay retail. But then I saw the financials. I'm like, I'm paying retail.
Right.
I'm paying retail for this thing. Because they had that one for 8 years as an Airbnb, and the numbers were, I mean, I only did long-term rentals. So when I see what kind of monies they're bringing every month, I'm like, holy moly.
Right.
So it was an easy sale for him. I paid $188 for that. Bought it, let's see, December, January, we closed like the end of January. It had everything in it. It had all the
What the furniture, everything.
Yeah, all I needed to do is put a new sleeper sofa for $1,000. Closed end of January 2020. A week later, I had my first guest. I'm like, this is real. This is real.
Wow.
And so Sasha, then there was JM. He's a Hollywood. He lives out in California, but he bought some stuff in Scottsdale. He didn't even know, but he got into it, and he had been doing it 4 years. So him and I went when he was out in town. I'm like, let's grab a coffee or drink. And my daughter actually wanted to go to these meetings. So prior to that, she hated real estate. She's like, she's a science and math. She's like, your job's so boring. And I'm like, okay. But then she heard Airbnb, and she went to some dinners with me, and she was 16 or 17 at the time. And so we got in February 2020, had the first guest. I was going to buy 4 more. We had in escrow March of 2020.
So before you're even first guest, you're already in escrow with.
Well, those were
part of the
doctor was getting divorced, so they were selling all the Airbnbs.
Did you keep their profiles too, or did you start from scratch?
I started from scratch, so that's important. I was able to. Sasha walked me through the app. We spent a couple of training sessions in his office, just learning how to enter everything and learning about customer service, what's important, because the goal with Airbnb or any of these short terms is superhost. So customer service. So anyway, March of 2020, COVID hits. I'm like, I already committed to these 4 deals. So we had long conversations, and there was so much unknown. We decided not to move forward. We weren't sure because just with everything going on in the world. Yeah. So it was understanding, and I wish at this time I would have got all those. Yeah. Because the pandemic actually helped the short-term business. It crushed it because no one wanted to stay in hotels. Yeah.
Well, another thing, I had 3 1-bedroom units off of Mill Avenue.
Okay.
So what was happening is, people would fly into town, and they would book my 1-bedroom unit to quarantine for 10 days. Oh, and then there was people there was actually one of the units, the gentleman was from India. So he came to ASU just to visit his daughter, and he couldn't go back. So he was there for like 3-4 months.
Nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So paying daily rate. So with the first one, everyone asked me about location. So that one is 2 miles from Sky Harbor. So it's perfect for people flying in. It's close to downtown Phoenix. And like I said, the community is built in 66, townhome.
So is it about location, or is it about who you serve?
Exactly. I would to answer your question, Michael, it's about who you serve. So there's people for every area, area of Arizona. I'm booked. And
are you going out to the west side now?
Yeah, we're going to Glendale. I have stuff right now in Glendale. So that is the next part where I saw that this Bellevue property, this Airbnb stuff was real. I'm like, okay, when does Bob's lease expire? When Chandler? When does Sabrina's lease expire in 47th Avenue in Glendale? So as leases were expiring, I was giving the tenant, because you have to give them a notice that you're not going to renew their lease. So I would do that, and then we go in and convert them to short-term rentals. I didn't want any long-term rentals after I saw how good Phoenix did. And then second one I did was in Chandler. And
so how many do you have?
9 right
Nice,
now.
man.
Yeah, and they're all bread and butter. Bread and butter meaning I have the one in Chandler that skyrocketed. That's probably worth $5, but every other one I bought was 150, 250, 300. And now we're doing a luxury. The family home is being converted into an Airbnb luxury because the kids are growing. And so
what do you tell a new investor? Well, someone that wants to be in the real estate, or they're trying to find their way in real estate, right? But then they want to go to Airbnb because that's where, or short-term rentals because that's where it's at. It's exciting, right? It's sexy. What do you say to that person? Because you're in the hospitality business. You're not so much.
I would say
investor, right?
Get a mentor, and you could call Flip a mentor. So you got to give some AZREIA members. You got to give a tip. You can't leave without dropping golden nuggets, man. Yes.
So what are some tips to someone that's looking to do it? What do you suggest? Like, dive in, or where do they start looking?
I mean, again, Marcus and I were talking about analysis by paralysis. So one thing I'm not going to overanalyze stuff. I see it, I'm going to do it. Like that's just how I've operated over the years, and it's worked most times, right? Like we're gonna learn all we can about the information, then make an educated decision, but be educated on the space, what's going on. I was telling Marcus, we are launching a course we worked very hard at the last 6 months. So there's, 9 modules. So we're doing that starting end of April, May, that'll launch. And that's a group class. That's $47 a month. And then I have private one-on-one mentorship. So get with someone. The point, Michael, is get with someone that's really doing the business.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, whether it's me, I would love it. But if you have someone else that that's doing well at the business, learn from them.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, every time I want to learn something new or take on something, I do the same thing, right? Even, so always learning from people that are already doing it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I didn't want to recreate the wheel. That's why I went to Sasha, JM. They were able to help me. And then there's 2 things about this, like you're in the business, but you're always growing the business. So things are always changing. So I constantly have to be on my toes too, like evolving. Like,
wasn't there like a new thing that just came out about the cancellation policy?
Yeah, I don't know much about that, but I know, let's talk a couple things. Like people, when they hear short-term rentals, what do they associate with short-term rentals?
Parties.
Exactly. So let's X that out right now. Like, don't worry about that stuff. We're very diligent in posting signs, screening the people. There's no parties here. If there's a party, guess what? There's a big fine. If they're smoking, there's a big fine. So we really very clear, and if they want to party, they could go somewhere else. Like
go to the bar.
We're not a party house.
Exactly.
So and things do happen. Like we did have someone wreck one of the places, and my buddy Kyle, he's like, "Welcome to the business." Yeah, so it happens.
It happens, just like with long-term rentals. You know, every now and then you have those outliers where you have somebody that come in, and destroy the place.
So in 2 years, I had that one claim, and Airbnb, I could show you how they were wonderful in working with me, and so
what about that rule in Scottsdale about having someone on the phone or within an hour they got to respond or something? Did you read up on that?
I don't have anything in Scottsdale right now.
Oh, you don't have? Okay,
no.
Cool. I think it was just there.
But I would just, a couple words of protection for yourself. Make sure that HOA allows Airbnbs up front.
So true.
I just looked at this luxury and I told the agent, I'm like, dude, do they allow it or not? He's like, let's write their offer. I'm like, I'm not wasting anyone's time. Call the HOA Monday morning, verify, and still we want to see what's called CC&Rs. Make sure before we close on it, because I don't want to get something and all of a sudden, they don't allow it.
I know a couple of people that did that, thought they were going to Airbnb some condos. and the condo association didn't allow Airbnb, so they were stuck with those properties.
And it's always better to educate yourself up front than bite yourself in the
Or they have
back
like 30 days.
I had that recently too in Maricopa.
The
The realtor reached out. I'm like, what are the rules? And she says 30 days. And so for me at this point, that wouldn't work because I like to do at least minimum of 3 days. And Arizona's a great state to start. We get a lot of traveling nurses. I mean, they kept us afloat. They're still coming.
Well, what about
spring break?
You're ramping up in West Side of Phoenix. So, So with the Super Bowl, what are you thinking about the Super Bowl? Do you have any predictions?
I mean, you'll see once you guys start, the phone just goes like when you get those bookings, it makes this cool sound.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm trying to get as many in Glendale. And again, they don't have to be fancy dancy. Like we have stuff, and both my daughter and girlfriend, they're like, are you sure you want to be in this area? I'm like, what's the worst thing? If it doesn't work, we spent $5,000 on decor. And that's another thing I teach about where to go for decor. What, because I've learned a lot by making my own mistakes.
Of course.
And so those two right across the street, like if it didn't work, I can make it a rental again. True. So that was my mindset.
Or in this market, you can always sell it.
I'm not selling anything. I get calls out. I'm like, I learned that before. And then what am I going to do with the money? Like I could buy, I mean, everything's so elevated. That's the struggle right now in Arizona.
True.
So
Flip, we want to thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate your time,
Michael,
man.
Marcus.
For you guys, if you want to get in contact with Flip, how do we reach you?
Right now, we're on Instagram at Flipman _AZ.
Gotcha.
And then we started a YouTube channel called the Airbnb Climb.
Okay.
And then we're on TikTok under the Airbnb Climb, doing some funny skits and stuff like that. But our goal right now is getting the courses launched, but personally, company-wide, is to get 100K every month generated through Airbnb passive income. So that's why we named it the Airbnb Climb, to show you guys on all social, like we're showing you the struggles, the real stuff, the good stuff, and it's gonna be fun to try to hit those numbers.
Cool, man.
Perfect. Well, we'll make sure we have all of those links in the show notes so you can follow Flip and what he's doing with the Airbnb Climb. We want to thank you, AZREIA family, and AZREIA members, and AZREIA AZ, the community, the state.
This is a great community that you guys have taken up, and I've been with 20 years since Alan started it. So it's really happy to see you guys take it to the next level.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks for being here.
Guys.
So we want to thank you for being here, and we will catch you on the next show.
Take it easy.
See you.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Delprete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.